Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. I'm the Compliance Evangelist and the voice of compliance, and I'd like to welcome you to a special 5-part podcast series on the current state of compliance, issues, and challenges, where I visit with Terry Orr, a managing director at Kroll, a division of Duff & Phelps. Kroll is the sponsor of this podcast series. In this podcast series, we visit with Terry about his professional background, the current state of compliance through the lens of recent FCPA enforcement actions, and the evaluation of corporate compliance programs 2019 guidance. We consider some of the specific issues for compliance in the private equity arena and the increased importance of compliance in the ever-changing healthcare space. First, a word about our sponsor, Kroll and Duff & Phelps. Kroll is a leading provider of risk solutions for more than 45 years. Kroll has helped clients make confident risk management decisions about people, assets, operations, and security through a wide range of investigations, cybersecurity, due diligence, and compliance, physical and operational security, and data and information management services. For more information on Kroll, visit Kroll's website, www.kroll.com. Duff & Phelps, the parent of Kroll, is the global advisor that protects, restores, and maximizes value for clients in the areas of valuation, corporate finance, investigations, disputes, cybersecurity compliance, regulatory matters, and other government-related issues. Duff & Phelps works with clients across diverse sectors, mitigating risk to assets, operations, and people. With Kroll, a division of Duff & Phelps since 2004, the firm has nearly 3,500 professionals in 28 countries around the world. For more information on Duff & Phelps, visit their website, www.duffandphelps.com. In this episode, we look at the recent evaluation of corporate compliance programs 2019 guidance issued by the Department of Justice in April of this year. Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, back for another episode with Terry Orr. We are going to take up the Department of Justice's most recent pronouncement on corporate compliance programs, which appeared in April 2019 in the form of the Evaluation of Corporate Compliance Programs 2019 guidance. First of all, Terry, welcome back.
Thanks, Tom.
Terry, I found this to be one of the more seminal documents or releases of information from the Department of Justice in 2019. And I've really wanted to put the question to you, what can we learn from this announcement, together with the recent speech by Assistant Attorney General Brian Benczkowski announcing the new guidance for the evaluation of corporate compliance programs?
Well, Tom, I think a lot of people have spoken directly about the new guidance. What I'm going to attempt to do today is talk a little bit about the changes in this guidance from what was informal guidance issued by the fraud section of the Criminal Division in 2017. While it's more of a change in form than substance, I think there are some significant changes that should be considered, and that's what I'm going to try to highlight.
So what were some of the major differences you noted?
Well, first of all, while this may not be a major difference, it certainly is a clarification, and that is the prosecutor's assessment of the adequacy and effectiveness of a compliance program will be critical in determining whether and how to bring a corporate criminal case, a company's culpability score under the U.S. sentencing guidelines, and whether an independent monitor is required post-resolution. I think that clarification is important. But some of the new items that I think are new in this guidance is that it provides a more explicit roadmap of the type of questions prosecutors consider when determining the effectiveness of a company's compliance policies. Namely, is the compliance program well designed? Is it effectively implemented? And does it actually work in practice? Under the current guidance, there is an increased focus on the roles of senior and middle management in enforcing a compliance program. Prosecutors will ask, did senior management encourage a culture of compliance? The DOJ will look for specific occasions when managers encouraged employees to act unethically or to achieve a business objective, or did the senior management demonstrate leadership in the company's compliance and remediation effort? Did the company seek feedback from employees about the performance of senior management to better understand the efficacy of the company's messaging or compliance? And I think that's important, an important change. Another is the new guidance specifically instructs prosecutors to assess whether a company's internal audit function is identifying issues relevant to the risk that should be addressed by the compliance program. The guidance instructs prosecutors to consider the process by which internal audit determines the location, frequency, and types of audits it conducts. Again, I think that's a more in-depth roadmap and guidance that is provided in this recent in the recent guidance. The updated guidance also suggests that companies can enhance training programs by incorporating practical advice or case studies to address real-life scenarios. Additionally, the new guidance looks to whether a company measures the effectiveness of compliance training and whether there is remedial training for employees who fail to pass compliance tests. Again, I think this is a significant change and one that compliance officers definitely needs to note and consider in making changes to their compliance programs. Finally, the last area is the new guidance reflects an increased interest in corporate anonymous reporting mechanisms, noting that confidential reporting mechanisms are highly substantiating of whether a company has established corporate governance mechanisms that can effectively detect and prevent misconduct. The revised guidance specifically tasks the prosecutor with ascertaining whether a company has an anonymous mechanism in place, and if not, why. And if it does exist, the DOJ will further inquire as to whether the mechanisms have been utilized and whether the company has created a workplace environment without fear of retaliation for reporting complaints. I think those are some of the highlights that I noted and differences in the new guidance.
Terry, I really like the way you sort of articulated a couple of the overriding or overall themes of the new guidance. And a couple of things struck me was throughout, whether it be an internal investigation, whether it be the hotline, whether it be a risk assessment, whether it be a root cause analysis, the department seemed to be tasking compliance practitioners with taking not a new step, but perhaps a more focused additional step of not just performing those tasks, but using the information, basically looping it back in as a continuous improvement technique so that they could improve their compliance program. Is that something that you saw as well?
I do. Certainly the feedback on senior management, middle management's performance, how things are working, the focus on whether the compliance program, the internal control structure is working effectively, and what they are considering as risk requires continuous monitoring and reassessment of those risks, how you're testing to make sure that your compliance program is addressing those risks, and the continuous measurement of management's, senior middle management's involvement in supporting the company's efforts. And then finally, to emphasize the point that you asked about is in your training programs, the assessment of how people are responding to or learning from what the effectiveness of those training programs, and for employees that don't do well in the program, is there some kind of remediational training that is performed? I think all of those things address that continuous learning loop that you mentioned.
The other observation, Terry, was the use of the word culture, and it was specified multiple times within the document. Is that something you are seeing that companies are beginning to perhaps pay a little bit more attention to, and all the way from assessing culture to surveys around culture to talking about culture to trying to improve culture? Is that something as well?
It is, and in my practice, I've seen a number of companies reassessing their culture, not only their control structure, but the culture around their control structure, the thinking of how the importance of it in their business. And I think we're seeing that on a broader basis as well. This is not only domestic companies in the U.S., but international companies. I'm seeing them becoming more concerned with cultural issues, the Me Too movements, a lot of things that are a little broader than maybe a control structure with fraud, but certainly cultural issues and cultural thinking. I just read something recently that said employees in a recent survey in the Scandinavian countries were willing to take less pay to work for a company with good cultural governance. And I found that really interesting, the importance of culture in businesses today.
Terry, the other thing that struck me that you just touched upon was the 2019 guidance and Assistant Attorney General Brian Bienkowski's announcement last October around corporate monitorships. But there was a second part to that, which I thought was interesting, which was really a roadmap for companies on how to avoid corporate monitorships or the steps they needed to take to do so. So I wanted to end by asking, do you see the Bienkowski memo from October 2018 and the 2019 guidance released in April this year as really two documents that should be read jointly by the compliance practitioner for insights?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think that Assistant Attorney General Bienkowski gave some real insights that support the guidance, and I certainly agree that they both need to be read in conjunction with one another.
Well, Terry, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time, but I wanted to thank you, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. I hope you will join us again tomorrow for our next episode. Once again, if you have any questions on Kroll, you can check out their website, www.kroll, that's KROLL.com. This special 5-part podcast presentation on the current state of compliance, issues and challenges, is sponsored by Kroll. It's a special presentation of the Compliance Podcast Network, and it's also available through the C-Suite Radio. Thank you for listening. I look forward to visiting with you tomorrow.